he absolutely hates school. If you ask him at any point in time, even when he was 3 years old in preschool, what's your favorite part about school? Going home. It was always going home. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of times I put him kicking and screaming on the bus in the morning. He had almost like a complete breakdown that day, just at the idea of having to read aloud in the classroom. He said that he would try to make himself as small as possible. Like he would scooch down in the desk and get really tiny and try to not have anybody call on him, because that was like his worst fear, was to be called on in class for anything. So as a parent and you hear that, it's like, that's so sad.
If you're curious about what is trending in Christian education, you've come to the right place. Hi, I'm Delina Wallace, homeschool mom, microschool leader, and education missionary. And this is Wise and Otherwise, where we are sharing real stories from the front lines of a growing movement in Christian education. Stories of pastors, parents, and everyday believers stepping up in new ways to shape the next generation. From microschools to school boards, we'll explore how the church can lead in education again, creatively, affordably, and in true partnership with families. If you've ever wondered what role you can play, I hope these conversations help you find your next step. It is wise for the church to get involved in leading education. Otherwise, who will? Come on, Christians, let's lead the way and redeem education for the glory of God. Okay, welcome to an episode of Wise and Otherwise. Today I have with me Jaime Beck. She is the mother of Charlie, who is an amazing student at Freedom Prep, and they have such a great story. Jaime, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for inviting me.
So I learned about Charlie actually from Candace. So Candace Fish there, she is the founder of Freedom Prep. She's a former public school teacher, just really felt that the Lord had placed on her heart years ago. And you can tell me what year that was. Was that 2020 that they were starting?
That's when it kind of like started blossoming. It was 21 when they had the first parent meeting to find out more about the school.
Okay. So I met Candace when she was just kind of sharing her vision about where the Lord was leading her, and like, I'm going to retire. I'm going to stop being a teacher in a public school. I'm going to launch my school. And then she had this parent orientation kind of open house to explore the idea. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's where you met her. So how did you hear about Freedom Prep and meet Candace in the very beginning?
The very beginning, it was on a Facebook group. I can't remember the name of it, but it had to do with the parents that were like not happy with the way things were going since COVID, when we weren't happy that the kids were in masks all the time and the like hybrid learning stuff and all of that. And it was in that group that I think Candace actually posted about Freedom Prep, and I sent her a message on Messenger and started up the relationship that way with her, and just kind of explained some of the stuff that we've been through with Charlie, and sounded like it was a good fit. She invited me to that first meeting, which was in February of 21, I believe. And yeah, that was just, it was an answer to prayer. It really was.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Tell me about Charlie. He's such a unique kid. I've heard such great stories. I've seen a little bit of some video footage as we've interviewed him, but from you as his mom, what's it been like raising Charlie, and what kind of boy is he?
When he was little, he was the easiest baby. And then about 3 years old, he really started taking all the tools in my toolbox. I've done daycare for 23 years. I'm the oldest of 4 girls. I mean, like, kids have been my life, and he threw everything out the window by age 8. And so that's when we started counseling with him and found out that he had ADHD, which I didn't know a lot about ADHD. I've learned a lot about it over the years. And he's just go like crazy, but he absolutely hates school. If you ask him at any point in time, even when he was 3 years old in preschool, what's your favorite part about school? Going home. Was always going home. It was never recess. It was never anything that you think of, some kids say PE. Nope, it was going home. He did not want to go. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of times I put him kicking and screaming on the bus in the mornings, which as a parent, that just tore me up. But I'm like, this is what you do. Your kid goes to school. This is how it's supposed to be. And homeschooling wasn't an option. I thought about it, but he wouldn't even sit down and like remotely read a book with me. He would not sit on my lap and like listen to me read a book, because he's like, nope, and just would push it away because he wanted to go. He wanted to build Legos. He wanted to do puzzles. He wanted to do anything that was hands-on, but to get him to sit down and do anything was not going to happen. So school.
Okay, so and you signed him up or you enrolled him in just like your local school?
Mhm. He
And how
did,
did that go?
his 3-year-old program was at another private school, and I mean, he went, he did it, he hated it, he wanted to be home all the time, but he also needed to be socialized because he had become very possessive of me the summer before. Like, he didn't even want the girls sitting, he has 2 older sisters, did not want them sitting on my lap. So I'm like, he needs to be around other people, because he's been home with me the whole time. So we did that push, and it was just hard because every conference, well, he's just not picking up his alphabet. He doesn't know all of his numbers. He doesn't know all of his sounds. And same thing, 4th grade, he ended up going to the public schools pre-K program, and we got the same report. He doesn't know his numbers. He doesn't know his letters. He doesn't know his sounds. And we were doing everything at home that was ever suggested to us. And so he went all the way public school from 4 years until his 8th grade year. And every single Dibbles test, STAR test, benchmark test, whatever test that they gave him, he was always in the 2nd and 3rd percentile across the board. State, district, didn't matter. And he worked every day with the reading specialist for an hour in school. And then I paid her to tutor him every summer to try to get him close to reading. And he was never grade level reading. 1st grade year, at the end of the year, they said, he's just now where he needs to be to start 1st grade. So we think we need to hold him back. And that was a really hard decision to make. But the reading teacher thought it was a good idea, and his teacher did. And we discussed it on and off, and we decided, okay, maybe this is what he needs. And then to tell you, knife in the heart from an 8-year-old boy looking at your face, and he goes, you may think it's a good idea, and Miss Blazy may think it's a good idea, and Miss Yost may think it's a good idea, but nobody asked me what I thought. And I was like, oh my gosh. But hindsight, I mean, like, we can look back, it definitely was a good idea because his maturity level is not on par with his age, which that has to do with ADHD and dyslexia. They are immature. And so it's been good for that fact, but he never caught up. He started 1st grade year on course, but by conferences in October, the 9 weeks, he's already behind again. And it's the same thing all the time. Like, he can't read, he can't sound out the words. We're struggling, and we just keep practicing. We keep practicing. He's just not getting it. And so, yeah, it wasn't until his 7th grade year that he was diagnosed as dyslexic, and he is severely dyslexic. And the public school system is not set up for that, in my opinion, at all.
Yeah, yeah. And you were able to get him an IEP, which you'd kind of been aware that he needed that for quite a while, and that he was dyslexic and that he needed additional help and support. But it had taken the school until his 7th grade year to have him assessed and officially diagnosed. And then he was given that IEP.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then how did it go from there for the next couple of years for him?
So it was his 2nd semester of 7th grade year that the accommodations from the IEP started. So he got put in the IS reading class, in the IS English class, which both of those had less than 10 students in them, and a pair of support along with the teacher. So it was very good support for him. And he actually, those were the 2 classes that he ended up liking the best because it was the smaller setting. He didn't feel like he was out of place. He didn't feel like he was being, pushed to read aloud in class in front of people that could read when he couldn't, because that was always a hard thing. We got it added to the IEP that he didn't read aloud in any of his core subjects unless he was given the material in advance, and we could practice it at home, which never actually happened, but that was what was in his IEP. He had one day that he was just convinced that he was going to have to read something in science class, and he was refusing to go to school. And I'm like, I'm not starting this precedent of you being able to stay home when you think this is going to have to happen. This is why we have the IEP in place. This is why you have the pair support. And I promise you, you are not going to have to read aloud in class. And so I ended up sending him to school, which, he's crying as he's getting on the bus, sent him to school, called the school, talked to his case manager, and informed her what was going on. She thanked me for sending him to the school. And I'm like, I'm not about ready to start this precedent because he'll stay home every day if you let him, right? And so she met him after the bus and took him into the class and with the parent in there, and they explained to him it was going to be the students that wanted to. He did not have to. This was part of the review for the test. And if you wanted to do a read aloud question thing, you could. but you're not going to have to. But he had almost like a complete breakdown that day, just at the idea of having to read aloud in the classroom.
Wow. Well, it
So,
sounds like the school actually responded really well, and that
yes.
once they were informed of the situation and to meet him at the bus and to walk him there. But how common is it to be able to get that individualized attention that he needs? Did you feel like was he slipping through the cracks in other ways, or did you feel like he was on the track for success with the current situation he was in?
If he would have felt more comfortable taking the accommodations, he might have been able to stay on the track for success. But I mean, his grades started really plummeting because he had moved past the learning to read to reading to learn, and we weren't hitting that reading to learn gap at all. And at that point in time, his grades started to dive, and he was allowed to go out of the class and have the test read to him and do the test verbally, but he wouldn't take that because the other students would know that he was leaving the class, and he felt like it was pulling attention to him and he didn't want any attention on him. So if he would have used the accommodations, yes, but he would not. And they wouldn't just pull him out of class and give him to him at that point in time. It's his choice. Shouldn't be.
Yeah, but there's a lot of
Automatically.
insecurity that comes there. And at that age, I mean, junior high, it's, oh my goodness, everyone's self-conscious. And so, yeah, I can 100% understand that. And you told me something about him not wanting to ever draw attention to himself. What would he say to you there?
When he was in elementary school, he said that he would try to make himself as small as possible. Like he would scooch down in the desk and get really tiny and try to not have anybody call on him, because that was like his worst fear, was to be called on in class for anything. So as a parent, and you hear that, it's like, that's so sad. I mean, he doesn't want to participate. He wants to make himself invisible, for lack of a better. And it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. So he didn't feel like he really fit in. And how was, we talked a little bit about like his birthday party and friends and things like that. What kind of experience was he having socially there?
Socially, he was not fitting in, like, at all. And I know that had a lot to do with his maturity level. I mean, just the way he would talk compared to kids his own age, you could tell that he's definitely a few years behind. The fart jokes start. And by the time they're in middle school, they kind of outgrow that some, and he still thinks it's hilarious and, stuff like that. And so, yeah, we tried birthday parties over the year. We only did a few of them that involved friends, because usually it was very low turnout. So, but that changed at Freedom Prep. Oh my God, it was wild. That first year, so his birthday's in April. So he started Freedom Prep his freshman year. And that April, when he had his party, I swear to God, every high school student showed up at my house. Granted, there's only like maybe 20 of them, but they were all there. And I was just like, I cannot believe that.
Oh.
I mean, the most he'd ever had was 4 of his friends show up before that.
Yeah.
So
thanks again for listening to this episode of Wise and Otherwise. We'd like to ask you to take a minute and please rate and review our podcast so that others can learn more about us, and just to continue to show your support for this work that we're doing. It would mean so much. So please, if you're on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, take a minute and give us a good review. Yeah. And so you're coming from the experience he'd had. He was in about the 8th grade. You hear about Freedom Prep. You go and visit the meeting that night. What did you realize? What was going to be different? And what started to stir inside of you that was like, this is what Charlie needs?
It's going to be, it's not going to be traditional. The kids aren't going to be sitting behind desks all day. That's huge for somebody with ADHD, because I mean, we tried fidgets and stuff like that, but he just does not sit still at all. And so that was huge. The no masks, because it was right after COVID. I'm like, thank God, because these masks are ridiculous. And then, they had an hour lunch / recess break in high school. I mean, wow. Seriously, they're going to be able to get up and go move around and spend that time burning that energy in the middle of the day. I'm like, that is huge in itself too. The smaller classes, it was going to be more individualized on what the student needed more. Like, he had an IEP going into Freedom Prep. We didn't actually renew that because there's no need for it, because he is automatically given any accommodation that he needs. It was just automatically provided for him, which was phenomenal because we didn't have to I didn't have to fight. I didn't have to ask. I didn't have to beg. It was just everything he needed, they were willing to give him.
Wow, that's
It was,
amazing. And that
yeah,
means the other students are getting that sort of care and attention as well. So
yes,
it's not just because he had this IEP and this was unique to Charlie. It was just this is their method
yeah,
at
more of
Freedom
their
Prep.
model. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're more. I think they look at the student as a person versus the students as a group more there, I guess would probably be the best way to describe that. And so they actually have real intentional relationships with these students. And because they are in that smaller environment, his teachers have been the same teachers for the 4 years that he's there. So he's really built some great relationships with his teachers too. So
Yeah, that's so important. I love it.
because
I was
change has never been easy for him either. And so the constant of that was a very big blessing too.
Yeah, I saw a post on one of my friends' timeline, and her son was able to have the same teacher. He was attending a different micro school, but had the same teacher his entire school career. And I just thought that is so unique and
Yeah.
something that we don't think about that much. But relationship, feeling comfortable with that person, knowing that person really well is such a huge thing that I think we don't give enough credit to that. It's really difficult for students. It's really difficult for people, humans in general, like to just have so much transition every single year. Like you're in an environment with these students and this teacher and in this classroom and in this space, and then it's okay, all new the next year and the next year and the next year. So that's something very unique to these schools, and I know Freedom Prep focuses on that and has high quality teachers. I love it. How is Charlie doing academically?
Uh, Fantastic. I used to go to all the conferences and I would leave in tears, scared of what his future was going to look like, because everything was like, well, here's his reports and we're really, don't know exactly what's going on, but he's really low on all the scores and everything. And you're just going, how is he going to succeed if he can't even, get through all of this? And the first conference that we went to at Freedom Prep, I was just like in shock through a lot of it. I just kept going, are we sure we're talking about the right kid here? You know what I mean? Like, he's doing great. My favorite thing, when his teacher actually has ADHD too. So she connects on him with a whole different level. But she goes, so I decided I wanted to have this classroom store, and I wanted one of the students to help run it. And so I put this up for, who would like to do this? And Charlie said he wanted to do this. And she goes, and I thought to myself, this could either be really good or really bad. And I'm going, yeah, this sounds interesting. He took that classroom store and he ran with it. She created a whole business 101 and a business 102 class for him to, like, if he had employees, how much would you pay him? How would you pay for like insurance, and how you need to keep track of your the items that you have, and then how much you're going to sell them for, so that way we have enough money to buy more, and like anything that would be involved with running a store. She turned it all into a class for him.
Wow.
What public school would give that experience to him?
That's great.
That's
amazing.
Yeah. Like, I left and I was like tearing up, but they were happy tears. And I'm looking at my husband and I'm like, can you believe what we just did? I mean, both of us were just kind of like, I can't believe this. I mean,
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
I love to see that turnaround. So we've talked about socially, it's been great for him academically, and then spiritually. How does Freedom Prep align with your family's faith and values? And has that been a good fit for Charlie? What kind of growth have you seen for him there?
Yeah, so we've always done church on Sundays, and he was involved in the youth group with the church and everything, but it was more like fun time for him. I feel like he just wanted to go and he wanted to play and everything. Well, with Freedom Prep, I knew there was a Bible class that was involved, and I'm like hoping that he would start to actually like dive into, I'm not going to say read the Bible, because I know the boy's not going to read the Bible, but he'll listen when somebody else reads the Bible. He still won't read, and he will tell you like, I'm not going to read that. Driving was fun. You have to read the signs. The lane is ending. You have to read the signs. He doesn't want to read. But so I knew he wasn't going to read the Bible, but the Bible class has got him diving into those deeper conversations and having those deeper conversations with the teachers and stuff like that. He actually is going to a men's group with a friend of ours. He is let's see, 27 years old. He's going to be getting married here. Charlie's actually going to be one of the groomsmen in his wedding. So he's kind of taken Charlie underneath his wing as an older brother type figure and has Charlie going to his men's group with him and challenges him on different levels and makes him think about, like, what is it to be a man and what does responsibility look like? And he's posing these hard questions to Charlie, and Charlie's like, I got men's group, I gotta go. I got men's group, I gotta go. I mean, like, he wants to go to all of these things. And before, that was not necessarily the case. It was more fun. And so I like the fact that he's actually starting to take the biblical, philosophies and stuff, and you can see him starting to apply.
Wow.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah, incredible. So instead of just being a Sunday morning and a Wednesday night thing, these are like throughout, all these principles are woven throughout his school day, Monday through Friday, and then just eager to learn more. And that's really exciting to hear.
Yes.
And then you told me about a friend of his named Olivia, one of his really close, dear friends. And just tell me, he mentioned like being concerned about her when he left the school and wanted to be at Freedom Prep and felt like that was where she should be. What was going on there?
Yeah, so they met in second grade. They were in class together. And so they just stayed friends throughout the whole thing. He's been to all of her birthday parties ever since. They have play dates. I mean, they were even having play dates in middle school together, but we didn't call them play dates, but I mean, they would hang out and everything. And he knew some of her struggles of not quite fitting in because she is high functioning autistic. And so those kids can get made fun of relatively easy. And in high school, kids are not nice. And her freshman year got rough for her, and she went into some serious depression, and they started different meds with her and stuff like that, trying to regulate her. And her mom just kept calling me because she was just having all these problems. And I have two older girls, so she would ask me how my girls would handle this situation. And it was a struggle. And I just kept telling her, I'm like, Olivia needs to go to Freedom Prep. And Charlie would talk to her and be like, you need to come to Freedom Prep. I have friends at Freedom Prep. Like, I mean, this was huge. I have lots of friends and people are so nice and everything else. And so after the year of struggle, they finally checked out Freedom Prep, and she called me and she's like, we enrolled Olivia. I'm like, thank God, because our whole family prayed all year for her, going, she just needs to just put that on their heart, that if this is the place that she needs to be, just like put that on their heart too, that they can see this, if this will be a good fit for her type thing. And yeah, that was one of the first things that she said after the first week or so of school. She goes, they're so nice, Mom. Everybody's just nice. And she was not getting that in the public school system at all. And so she started there her sophomore year. And then last year for their junior year, they actually enrolled their younger daughter too. So now both of their girls are in Freedom Prep also.
That's great. What a difference it makes when you have a safe space and a loving environment and teachers who are really caring for you. I know that they do also in public schools and other schools, but like to be able to really live in relationship with their students, and they just have so much more freedom and flexibility in how they meet these kids' needs. So I'm so happy.
Classroom, I think, makes a huge difference too, because you can build those personalities more on the smaller level.
Right.
Than when you have 20 to 30 kids in a class.
Sure.
You really don't have that time to connect with each of the students.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for sharing Charlie's story and your story. I really admire you fighting for just finding the right fit for Charlie and meeting his needs. I love that. What would you say to other moms whose kids might not be in a school that's really meeting their needs and giving them the attention that they need?
It's going to be a search your heart type thing. I mean, this was definitely lots of prayer, lots of consulting with our people of what, where do we think we need to go with this? But when you find that right place, don't ignore that nudging that's inside, because like after that first meeting, I had goosebumps and I was just like, this is where he needs to go. And my husband was still a little bit on the hesitant side. I'm like, he just needs to go here. This is it. And we followed my instinct, and it ended up being absolutely amazing. But don't stop fighting. It's exhausting. It really is. When you have a child that struggles, it can be exhausting, but you can find the right fit if you keep looking.
That's so great. Thank you so much. Again, this was Jaime Beck. She's mom to Charlie. He is a senior at Freedom Prep with Candace Fish. And thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wise and Otherwise. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks.